types of things and some unique things that happens and just that demise of it. And to think of out there in a rural place like Route 30 or there, how did it ever get to that stature? And it started with the stagecoach. So, thank you.
Great history lesson as well. Thank you. Really interesting. So Larry Booker, I don't know if we're going to hear the brogue tonight, but not tonight, huh? He's the author of McGrath's Murder and McGrath's Detail, and he's got a new one coming. We're planning an April in Paris reading, so put that on your calendar. So let's welcome Larry.
Minutes you said, B?
No, five o'clock.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm Larry Booker, and I have two books out. One is McGrath's Detail, which takes place in Ireland, and my wife and I, unlike Roma, love to travel. We've been to Ireland twice, and there's a whole bunch of stories there. So then, since this is Jack Kerouac's On the Road, you can consider this On the Road to Ireland. A lot of things happening just before D-Day. Follow-up to that is McGrath's Murder, and this is right after the war. He's on the road to Boston, where he was born. The character is Lieutenant and then Commander William McGrath, United States Navy. And these two are right up here. If you're interested, I'm here to sign and sell and sign, of course. But this is McGrath's Murder. This is on the road to Boston and on the road to Ireland. Kerouac would be ecstatic. But at any rate, a third book, which forms the trilogy. My publisher wanted the trilogy. And so I did the third book, and it's called McGrath in Paris. McGrath in Paris. And, thank you, B. What I'm going to do, I don't even have a proof copy yet. We only went to contract a few days ago, well, about a week or so ago. And so I don't have a proof copy, so I had to print these off from my book online. Am I down to 25 minutes now? Okay, good. 3.5. 3.5, okay. Friday, March 21st. This all happens in 1947. Spring came early to Paris that year, 1947. It was a time of recovery from the Second World War, in which France had suffered severely from the Nazi occupation. French nationals loyal to de Gaulle clung to his dictum that France would rise up again against the German oppressors and destroy them and raise herself to her inherent level of glory and power, and would bring back to the capital of France the European capital of culture, art, cuisine, music, and renowned architecture, with all of her glory, beauty, and grandeur to her rightful pinnacle of European prestige. These loyalists nurtured and lived that belief shortly after France was forced to capitulate to the German army. All through the early 1940s and up to Paris Liberation Day, August 25, 1944, when German General Dietrich von Choltitz, commander of the German garrison and military governor of Paris, completely ignoring Hitler's orders to level Paris and burn it to the ground, surrendered to the Free French forces at the Hôtel Meurice. After von Choltitz surrendered to the French, the German soldiers, with their brass bands, no longer walked down l'Avenue des Champs-Élysées, as they had since the occupation of Paris had begun, and La Marseillaise could be heard all through the city. It was the same August day that Ernest Hemingway, who loved Paris and his adventures there, entered the bar of the Hotel Ritz, which F. Scott Fitzgerald had introduced him to in the 1920s. La Ritz was a luxurious establishment on the lovely Place Vendôme in Paris. Hemingway, on August 25th, dressed in his correspondent's uniform, since he had embedded with the U.S. 4th Division troops since the Normandy landings, arrived with a group of resistance fighters at the hotel. Entering La Ritz, he declared that he had come to liberate its bar. He reportedly ran up a bar tab of 51 dry martinis. That's on Google. In later times, Hemingway would write that when he died, he would enter heaven, and it would look like the bar at La Ritz. What happens in this book is that there's a serial killer, and he gets wound up with McGrath. Friday, March 21st still. In a small side street, La Rue de Ligné, probably named for all the wool merchants that did business here in the Middle Ages, and almost to modern times off La Rue Berthe in Montmartre, C C is the character. Yeah, C. He is the character. He is the serial killer. But who he really is, you got to get the book to find out, because I ain't going to tell you. No, I know. What a bummer. C waited in the doorway of a pastry shop, une pâtisserie, long closed up for the night. The shop was pitch black, as were all the other shops along the length of the Rue de Lenier. His black topcoat and large hat blended in with the darkness of the stormy night. Rain raced down the wings of a north wind, bringing water into northern France from the vast wetness of the English Channel, which the French call La Manche, or the Sleeve, the North Sea, and beyond. I'm going to skip ahead. C stood patiently inside the sheltering doorway of une pâtisserie 10 meters beyond the corner of la Rue des Trois Amis et la Rue de Lenier in the 13th arrondissement. Droplets of cold water dripped from his nose and chin down the black coat onto the pavement. It was still mid-March with February weather, but the thrill, hope, and joy of the famous mood of April in Paris was on everyone's minds. Skipping ahead because I'm running out of time. C decided on the next corner, where there was a street lamp. He wanted the man to see his face, to know who was attacking him. He also wanted to see some light to see his work, to be sure it was thorough and precise, especially the forehead carving. He began to breathe heavily now in anticipation of the deed he would soon do, in anticipation of the vengeance he would wreak, of the joy and satisfaction of seeing his quarry recoil in pain and anguish at his own execution. C was 10 meters away from the quarry, 8 meters. At this rate, he would encounter the quarry just before they reached the streetlight. This would give him plenty of time to attack. He threw him into the shop front and up against a strong wooden door. C had walked into this route from the bistrot to the quarry's apartment at least 20 times, determining the best place to attack. The quarry was almost there. C was 3 meters behind him. He stepped forward quickly and threw his arms around the man's neck. The panier made him weak and unable to resist well. C dragged him into the shop entry and pushed him against the strong wooden entry door, with his face just a few centimeters from C's face. "You!" the quarry exclaimed. "You! I thought you were dead! I thought the Gestapo got you years ago! I thought..." "Well, you thought wrong, Benny." To find out what happens, why the serial killer is doing these things, you have to get the book, and that comes out in October. Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
My goodness, that's a little bit of a horror story for someone like me. However, I trust that there might be some redeeming factor in the end, knowing you. Okay, next up is Be Amore. I'm just going to read you a couple of things. One is what I call a sketch. It's called The Story of the Bus. Once we had an orange and brown Volkswagen bus. The we being my partner, me at the time, me and my 3 kids. We drove it cross country from Boston to California, camping all the way. First time we broke down was in Española, New Mexico, on Labor Day weekend. Creighton Robinson, the mechanic at the gas station we coasted into, took pity on us and gave us Elsie's empty house for a magical weekend until he could get the parts to fix it. We had a deadline of being in California for the kids to start school within a couple of days. We didn't make it. We drove the bus up to San Francisco, all around Tamales Bay, and to our eventual home in rural Marshall. Population 50, 30 minutes from the nearest town. Really out there. Memories of Vermont. One day at the beginning of a long trip back from the city, the bus just stopped in the middle of the Golden Gate Bridge. Literally. Luckily, we were in the right-hand lane, but we still blocked traffic on the whole bridge, and it took a long, long time before a huge wrecker truck came up behind us and pushed us off the bridge. That was scary. We left the bus parked in Sausalito, and I honestly don't remember how we got back to Marshall, over an hour and a half away. Next day, Tom and I went back to Sausalito on the public bus, and got a mechanic to check the vehicle out. No dice. The engine was completely gone. The rebuilt engine we had paid precious, precious dollars to buy. The engine we treated with such care, consistent oil changes, valve checks, everything we had been taught to do. Our only vehicle, gone. We had no credit cards, no savings, nothing except the money we earned every week, waiting on tables, dishwashing, and my teaching. We hitched back to Marshall. The first person to pick us up was in a black Mercedes sports car, open top, from Mill Valley. When we told him our story, he looked back, his white teeth grinning at us from his curly-haired, deeply tanned, movie star face. And he said, "Why don't you just fix it?" Different world, I thought, through the haze of shock and despair that I was still in. We hitched back and forth down the coast to our jobs in Point Reyes and soon bought the rusty, rattling, blue and white Coast Electronics truck for $150 from our close friends Bill and Gretchen, and later saved enough to buy, after someone's old grandmother died, the green Rambler station wagon that we often trundled the 3 kids into for an hour-long drive to the movies, over and around those golden California hills, singing them to sleep on the way back as we watched the white moon rise over the bay. Somehow we made it through the challenges, every time seeming like a small miracle. I still don't know how, each emergency bringing a certain numbness, a familiar sigh, and the picking oneself up for the next effort required by circumstance. What choice did we have, really? One small step at a time, and the journey stretched beyond the hills and the bay, and it's still going on. Really a lot of experiences, too much to put into 5 minutes. Here's a small tribute to my dad. It's called The Trailer. They would have loved it, talked about it for years, a motorhome filled with everything you'd need to live for months on the road. Vistas opening before the large slanted front windows. She at the wheel, he looking at spaces barely imagined except late at night in his office overlooking the sleeping city. Always on the obverse schedule, working while others slumbered. His private dreams lived a life of their own. Dutiful son, dutiful husband, dutiful father. The second-generation urban immigrant philosopher gazed out of tiered glass, watching lights like sparse stars over a desert spread across the quiet city. Dreaming of Alaska and California, as far from the red brick of Boston as one could go and still be in America. Roving in imagination to explore the land in which he'd lived but never known. Although he died before the dream was realized, I like to think that in those odd, unfettered moments, my father became his beloved Ulysses, standing before the sail of the world, staring into the sea of possibility. So, thank you. Next, let's welcome Bianca Zanella, who's very active with Stone Valley Arts in Poultney, works at Green Mountain College, and is a wonderful poet-performer.
Yeah, and I actually just got back from Decatur, Georgia, where I was a judge for the National Poetry Slam. So good, but talking about being on the road, 5 different buses, 30 hours to get back. But I'm here, and I have a piece today entitled When You Don't Know Which Way Is Up. And this piece is more about the internal travels that you have, trying to figure out, and in my instance, who I am as a woman. And I just wanted to do a quick plug for Stone Valley Arts. So on Saturday, September 10th in Poultney, Stone Valley Arts at Fox Hill, which is right across from Poultney High School, we're going to have a story slam, and you're all invited. And then also, if you're down in the Rutland area this Saturday at the Coffee Exchange at 6 o'clock, there's an open mic too. Okay. I I crumble from the softest wind. Fall over me and you will find dust behind a tripping tumbleweed. You've put me in the desert, where you say I belong because I could never grow into anything more than what you want. And you don't see how the sun burns. You think shallow means safety, like you can't drown in an inch of water anyway, but that's not even enough here. It's all so crisp and fragile and female. I am crumbling slowly. I am becoming snapshots shaken in a tin can on a street corner as shoeless feet walk under bridges meant for sleeping. I am not sleeping. I am not sleeping. You won't let me sleep. I am always alert. You are always alert. Can't be too tired to run today. Can't be too woman to rape today. Can't be left alone. Can't I be left alone? I am almost new until I'm reminded that I'm secondhand and in the sale bill like all the other half-off knockoffs, trying to play grown-up like a real Chanel. Like you'd put me on display because you know I'm worth it and not because there's an absence of sky today. Heaps of clouds, ribbon, electricity pouring, goddesses restore old fountains. I can feel myself rusting. I am rust. Yes, it feels better than desert. Someone heard me calling for rain and now it's flooding. I should get out of the rain. I should get out of the spring. If only winter would take me in, I could collide with the cold and be safer in bruised bundles with all the other marked up women, marked up because they've been marked down. I'll shatter at a whisper. I know it. I was a creaking rill, my sleeve caught on broken branches now. I am cynic, chained to lightning, skeptic of fortune and healing, and this isn't repetition for the sake of it, folks. I've gone missing. And before you find me again, when all I want to do is have lunch at Cafe Lily because I read really good reviews for this crab beignet that was said to have walked out right onto your plate, I will crumble like chalk under great pressure or like hot sand prior to turning to glass. I know I am not strong today. If a rock was flung into my window, I would break. But I know that I am strong, and I know that I will be stronger tomorrow. There might be an absence of sky today, much too much light. No one can see me, not the police officer, not the crab, not my friends. But when rain comes again, it shows us all who is in the shadows and who is playing in the puddles. And it's funny, to look down at the puddles is to see the sky, infinite, protective, and silent. So, I am sky. Thank you.
Quite the journey. Quite the journey. So next is David Mook, who started the Greeley Writers Guild in Pulteney and is on the board of Stone Valley Arts and has been a feature reader here, and is a great supporter, lover, and very generous individual. Welcome, David.
Thank you. Must be somebody else. Okay. So this poem I wrote on the way home from a conference on Jungian psychology. And when you're new at the conference, they welcome you. Welcome, David, welcome. And so I had just experienced that, and I'm talking about anima, not so much the soul, but the archetypal feminine. So this poem, driving home from the conference, welcome, anima, welcome. While driving, I felt a life moving inside of me. I pulled onto the shoulder of the road to discover heels and toes pressing on the wall of my womb. My own zygotic twin coaxing to be born today, 50 years and 9 days after my own seemingly normal birth. Separated since that day, though not like other twins. Into this world I came, grew to adulthood, oblivious to your existence. While you remain behind, a mysteriously silent witness, a second gestation over half a century later, you wake and stretch and press upon the call of my soul, demanding to be known. And I no longer know who I am. Another driving poem, driving across Frenchtown Bridge from Pennsylvania to New Jersey. Noisy bridge. This was rehabbed and rededicated on July 30th, 2001. Part 1. Flung out as if from a choir loft, steel notes, percussive metal music, tire tunes held in suspension, keeping time through set movements, thrumming between abutments, peer to peer, sounding the beat. Part 2. Crossing over. No roll of snare, no oomph of kettle, no more spontaneous riffs, no more loose vibrations from old metal decking, just the uptight tones of snug-fitting sections, expansion joints playing incantations vaguely familiar. Crossing over. Could it be that simple? Each life flung out as if from a choir loft, held in suspension, end to end thrumming. And the last poem, location, location, location. I had a real estate license for a while. This is an on-the-road poem. Route 40, driving south in New York State. Yes, fine dining. I'm sure is what the sign said in smallish, slightly crooked block letters crowded into the lower left-hand corner of the huge wood-framed billboard out front of the Auction Barn restaurant. Located next to and sharing a parking lot with the livestock sale. Stockyards, stalls, and holding pens filled beyond capacity with buying sheep, big-eyed heifers, fattened hogs, and a handful of horses who'd all seen better days. A stroke of genius, actually, sharing space like Baskin-Robbins and Dunkin' Donuts. Yes, a stroke of genius locating the livestock sale next to a fine dining restaurant. So I slammed on the brakes, wheeled into the parking lot, and found a space among the various pickup trucks and livestock trailers. Full of anticipation and with the slightest whiff of pig shit still in my nostrils, I seated myself just as the waitress gestured, "Anywhere." I pulled the plastic cover menu from behind the paper napkin holder and perused the offerings. Ground sirloin burgers, cooked to your preference. Meatloaf, served with mashed potatoes and gravy. And the special pot roast, like Mom used to make. After wiping the tablecloth with a well-worn dish rag, the kindly waitress asked, "What can I get you, honey?" I can't explain why, but without thinking, I opted for the vegetarian vegetable soup and house salad. And though reminded about my own days in advertising, creating slogans to deceive, if only slightly, as low as, price from, everything today at the Auction Barn restaurant was as advertised. Just fine. Driving off, I hear the auctioneers fading trill enticing bidders and notice the manure stains on my floor mats. So I'm thinking the smells of the day will be with me far longer than the stick to your ribs vegetable soup. Thank you.
Well, we've been on a lot of journeys, huh? So our last reader is Fran Bull, who is a marvelous artist as well as a poet, and she is the founder and owner of Gallery in the Field just up the street. So let's welcome Fran.
Thanks, Bea. Thanks for letting me know about this, and thanks for opening this shop. I've never been here. This is my first time, and it won't be my last. I'm going to read a poem I wrote about a place I've never been to and an experience I never had. That's the joy of the imagination, but it is about the tsunami that happened in 2004 in Indonesia. Imagining that experience, and it has a visual component too. So, it's called Aftershock. They place corpses in bags and secure them with ropes. The recent ones were backhoed into a ditch and buried quickly before they attracted disease as they decomposed and became hazardous to the living, the survivors, who were not in need of bags, but in the matter of need. They needed everything. Most of what they needed was irreparable: a daughter, a father, a house, a world. I live in the countryside in a valley between two mountain ranges. I notice how the landscape slips imperceptibly out of one vale and another as the day passes. Imagine an Andy Warhol silk screen. There is Marilyn Monroe in the morning. She is yellow. Marilyn at noon, no sun, blue. Marilyn in late afternoon, orange. Marilyn at night, dark purple, and so the day. It is the shifting out of garments, the violent shifting as with tsunamis, that scatter your veils and leave you naked, wondering if you'll ever be, or suddenly in a body bag. It could happen. Consider the subtle shifting, the kind you only notice when a houseplant you thought had caught a frost sends up the tiniest green leaf amid a podded jungle of dry brown stalks. And you rejoice, a tiny